Welcome everyone to the episode 2 of the Retmod Gaming Podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the next-gen console war and what we'd like to see from the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlet, to be more specific. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who commented and watched our last podcast video. It was much appreciated, and hopefully you'll enjoy this one and what we've got to say today. So straight away, how you doing, Al?
I'm alright, mate, you?
Yeah? What you been playing this week?
Mostly Horizon Forza.
Oh, yeah?
Forza 4.
Yeah, with the force feedback steering wheel.
Yeah, because I've got a steering wheel. So I've been obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Mainly because the kids love it.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier in the week, and I prefer the Forza Motorsport series to the Horizon, but each their own.
Yeah, well, I've only got Horizon 4 on the Game Pass for the PC, so...
Well,
I would be playing 7 otherwise.
I have been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey again. I love that game. That's brilliant, that game is. They've just released the DLC, the Atlantis DLC, so I'm just having a playthrough on that.
They've done an update as well, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually performed. I've got them both on the Xbox and the PlayStation. So I've completed it on the Xbox. I'm just going through it with the female Cassandra.
Yeah.
And you can boost the character now, straight up to the top bracket, so you don't have to go through hours upon hours of...
They've done a Warcraft,
they've done a Warcraft
without the £50 fee.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying that again. I'm just going through the Atlantis DLC on that one. But today we're going to talk about, as we said at the start, the next generation of consoles. Following on from last week's podcast when we spoke about our E3 reviews of the games and the conferences in general. So we'll get straight back into it, and we're going to start with... I think we'll start with PlayStation, because we've had some recent news this week regarding the power battle, as it were. Which one's going to have more quote-unquote teraflops?
Quite a few people coming out now.
Ridiculous.
Saying,
yeah, so more specifically, we've got Andrew Reiner from Game Informer, I believe. So he's had it on good authority that the PlayStation will be more powerful. It doesn't say how much.
No.
It just says, and another person who's very familiar within the games industry is Colin Moriarty of, I think it's Colin's Last Stand and the Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast. Again, he stated that it's going to be more powerful than the next Xbox Scarlet. And we kind of maybe guessed that, because on stage at this year's E3, Microsoft shifted their wording just a tiny bit.
They weren't screaming we're the most powerful console in the world anymore.
Well, every company likes to do that when they know they have.
Yeah. And
they're very careful wording. Now, as me and you, we speak about this, we don't care, because we're going to buy them both anyway. And this is what we're going to discuss today, is what we want to see, not a versus match, so to speak. So we're not going to fanboy over which one is going to be this and that. We're just going to talk about what we'd like to see each company do at the start of the generation. And we'll get into it. So starting with PlayStation, what do you want to see this generation from the PlayStation 5?
More of the same.
So more single player.
Yeah, more story.
Yeah.
It just incredible. You look back, the PS4, some of the games they've had with like God of War and Spider-Man.
Yeah. In terms of features, though, not so much. We'll get into the games in a little while.
Features, the backwards compatibility,
That's
which
a
they've
big
confirmed, is huge, because I've got a massive Sony collection. It means I can have one machine set up as opposed to the 4.
We've got large Xbox collections as well on.
Yeah.
And that is one of the features that I have
that's
thoroughly
why I
enjoyed.
bought the One X.
Yeah.
Because of the enhanced features for the Xbox original games that they were doing.
Microsoft deserves a massive amount of praise for giving that.
Yeah.
This generation, because I've used it quite a lot for Knights of the Old Republic, the Sith Lords, Jade Empire, the Gears of War games, and I've really enjoyed going back to them. Not only as they were back on the 360 and Xbox original, they've improved graphically, frame rates, and things like that. And I think that's a massive plus. And I definitely think that Sony should, and I think they will. They're not going to ignore 96 million, 100 million people now have bought a PlayStation 4. There's got maybe a larger collection than what they might have on Xbox. You can't ignore those people. At least be PS4.
I'm fairly certain that it's PS4 out the box.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be adding PS3, PS2,
Do you think
PS1.
It's not going to be a disc format, is it? It's going to be more like emulation.
I think they're probably going to do what Microsoft did, where you put the disc in and it downloads.
But it's emulated
it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Microsoft's emulation is incredible for
fantastic.
what they do for a machine.
And we'll get into Microsoft
there's some PCs
later
that
about that.
do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a massive plus to have that feature on your latest console. And I know Microsoft didn't have it at the start, but they stuck to it and give us every month 4 or 5, 6 games, maybe even more some months, of quality games that you can go back. You don't have to dust your old consoles off.
I think Sony have tried in the past, like when they did the PS3, but they tried to do it with hardware and they integrated the PS2 in with the PS3, which caused a lot of problems and a lot of expense.
PlayStation Now?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, I subscribed to that for a month and it wasn't great. We've got pretty decent internet. It's not the fastest in the world, but it's fast enough to run.
It's fast enough to do that.
To run that service, and I played God of War Ascension using that, and it was okay. There was a slight input lag, but it's like, you want to see the games. If you're going to go backwards compatibility, I'd like to see the games improve, like the boost feature that was in the PS4.
Yeah, exactly, the enhancement.
I think they should launch the PS5 with something very similar, if not better. So, for instance, they showed Spider-Man PS4.
Well, I was going to say, because you've got the SSD, that's going to make a huge difference to older games anyway.
Exactly. You could see in that 30-second, I think it was a leaked video, that you could see that Spider-Man PS4 was running faster, loading in assets quicker. There was because if the original load streaming, there was stutters, there was slight split-second pauses as the camera was panning fast through the city.
Yeah.
When they put it on the new PS5's SSD, it was like rocket, the smoothness of it. So, again, if it could improve resolution, load time, which we know it improves load times and faster world streaming, so you'll have less texture popping. I should imagine that's how it's going to be. So yeah, there's a couple of features that I think they could definitely borrow from Microsoft.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you imagine a PS3 game running on a PS5 with an SSD. Yeah. You're going to have instant loading. This is where I say where Microsoft have got it right in the fact that they enhance the games when they bring them up.
Yeah.
So if Sony can do that with a PS3 game or even PS2,
I'd love that. Yeah.
It'd be incredible, wouldn't it?
I mean, if they do that, then that's a massive plus, and it's a huge sell straight away. Because straight away, you look at your old library that's on the shelf now, and you go, "Oh, there's 400 games." You go, "All those are going to work on my PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlet," because I've no doubt that Microsoft are going to do this. And it's just a huge thing to have.
They've actually ended support now, haven't they, on the Xbox One?
They've ended support because they are definitely shifting focus on the Scarlet. Yeah. I think they're going to have all those games ready to go on the Scarlet. They're shifting focus now for the holiday next year, where they're going to, all those games that are backwards compatibility now are going to be there for you on the servers to download when you put the disc in. And here's an extra 20 for launch. 20 backwards compatibility games.
Because it's not such a problem for them. Like with PS4 going to PS5 and Xbox One games on the new Scarlet, it shouldn't be that much of an issue because the architecture is quite similar.
Yeah, I agree there.
It's going back previous generations. They weren't using the x86 format and things like that with the processors.
Yeah.
Very PC orientated now.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't want them to go PC because it separates them from a PC.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like a live service, I think this could be. And there was a guy in the comments on last week's video who said that, do you think that Sony will do a Games Pass? And he believes that obviously there's a Netflix model coming in the future. I don't think that's going to be at the start. I think they're going to stick with both companies are going to have a version of Game Pass. I really believe that, where here's a few select games every month for you to try out, new and old, check them out, like them. They're going to last on there for a month and then buy them if you really like them.
It's definitely a system that works. I mean,
definitely.
As long as they don't get rid of physical media.
Physical media is so important to us, though. Yeah. I will state that here, that we are physical collectors. We don't want the digital-only future, because I like to own my media. People, you know, the modern sort of gamer doesn't like...
I felt really remiss last week because I didn't mention limited run games.
Oh, of course, yeah. Limited run games are phenomenal.
They bring physical copies of digital-only games, and it's...
And as the name implies, in a limited run. Yeah. And you not only get the game, you get a really nice collectible edition of that particular game. Yeah. So they're worth a shout out. If you're into your collecting of digital-only games, check limited run games out. And
I mean, they've kept the Vita alive the last few years.
Yeah, the PlayStation Vita, though, I think the Switch has nailed the Vita, to be perfectly honest.
Vita, though, mate.
Yeah, the Vita was a great system. Yeah. But anyway, going back to the PlayStation, we know that, again, we don't need to discuss this because of Digital Foundry, both systems are going to launch very similar spec-wise.
Yeah.
Other than the fact we have unconfirmed rumours of the PlayStation being more powerful, because we have had both. Yeah. We've had it both ways. We've had people on the Xbox saying that the Xbox is going to be more powerful. That was a month before what Colin Moriarty and Andrew Reiner were saying this week that's just passed. So it's a wait and see for that. I really don't care about that.
I mean, each company brings their own thing. I mean, Nintendo's all family.
Yeah. And this is what
Xbox have got their Gears of War, Forzas,
and Halos.
They just need. What disappoints me with Microsoft is they keep buying these developers and shutting them down.
Both companies are guilty of doing that.
Yeah,
though.
Definitely. But Sony still keep bringing out original IPs with their companies, and Microsoft seem to have just stalled at those few games now that they pump out.
My argument to that has always been, is that Halo is hugely successful. Gears is hugely successful. Forza is the best racing game you can buy. I know Gran Turismo guys are not going to like that, but Forza is the pinnacle of races this generation.
I prefer Forza because it's
less simulation.
It's slightly more arcadey.
We slightly got into this about FIFA last week within the EA press conference about everything being a simulation now.
Yeah.
And the arcadeness of games has been lost. Like, just put the game in, play it, and have outrageous tackles, outrageous overtaking, outrageous passes, outrageous shooting in different sports games and racing games. There's one game that we used to play religiously on Xbox. That was Project Gotham Racing.
Yeah.
Forza for me is the closest that gets especially close, the Motorsport series. But again, we'll get into the games and PlayStation in a minute, because that is one of the games I believe that Sony should try and launch with. But again, going to the graphics. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. Going on about graphics and things like that, that's not what we're... As you said last week, it helps to enjoy game graphics, but yeah, with the PlayStation...
The thing is, the specs are so similar, I don't think there's going to be that much in it. It's going to be down to what the developers can do with the hardware.
Services?
Yeah.
Services are going to differentiate the console, which is why I think PlayStation should have a version of Game Pass.
Definitely.
We saw that now EA Access is on PlayStation now, which is interesting, which tells me that Sony are now opening the gates a little bit to other services.
EA like their money, don't they? And
yeah, they're going to need it as well.
They've alienated a large proportion by not bringing it to PlayStation.
Well, the last two major franchises have been stinkers in a way. And we're talking about Mass Effect and Anthem, which is... I don't know where Anthem stands at the moment, but again, we're talking about Sony, and again, the console for me has just got to launch well. Yeah. It has to launch well.
They've got to get the pricing right, man.
Pricing's got to be right.
Definitely.
The features that are already there have to be improved upon, and even take ideas, because
going from all other things, it's a hard sell to get people to go from the PS4 as well. Because I'll tell you something, going back to some of the PS3 games, they're really good-looking games.
And some of those games that are on PS4 will launch on PS5. So people are going to go, well,
why?
You know, I'll just stick to the PS4 version. Yeah, I'll leave it a year. You have to want to make people buy this next console. And that's never normally an issue. People just generally go out.
Well, this is it. You'll get your Ted like us. We're going to get it.
We'll get them both as and when they launch.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, that's what Sony need to do. A little bit more of the same. I'd like to see a bit more multiplayer games. Like I said, I'm not a big multiplayer fan, but I do believe their portfolio of games is lacking a couple of good multiplayer games for that.
I am
for
amazed
that crowd of
that
gamers.
They didn't do another Killzone following a Gears of War-esque type multiplayer situation.
There are two teams over there now at Guerrilla Games, and I honestly think that maybe the second team is either working probably on a Killzone, but I said last week I think it would suit them to do the multiplayer of a SOCOM game, because Killzone Shadowfall at the start of the gen had a fantastic multiplayer element to it. So if they were to take that team that created the multiplayer from Killzone Shadowfall and put them on a new SOCOM game, even if it's first person SOCOM game, I think that would be a huge plus for PlayStation gamers.
It is what I'll tell you what I thought about the other day. Do you remember Full Spectrum Warrior?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
that would be an incredible 4-player co-op game.
You had to give,
something like that.
It was a good single player game where you give orders.
Brilliant.
You literally give orders to each one of your soldiers.
And that's still a good looking game.
Yeah, we might revisit that at some point. But yeah, so I say PlayStation again. Don't rest on their laurels, so to speak. Come out, don't get cocky because you've had a good generation. because Microsoft will be thinking this is the start of a new one. Launch that looks like they're both launching very similarly. And Microsoft have confirmed holiday 2020, so I should imagine PlayStation will be thereabouts, maybe a week before, a week after.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sony just try and beat them.
We're in June
now. Because I heard a rumour, and it is just a rumour, that they're shooting for March next year.
That would be, well, yeah.
There's a few been circulating the net saying March next year.
Maybe. I actually think that...
Because they do try and beat each other, don't they? Well, every generation you look at, they never really come out at the same time.
No, not particularly. I think that would be silly, though, because... Well, maybe not. I mean, you got Ghost of Tsushima, Dreams. They'll want to keep the Dreams crowd going, so that'll be a cross-platform game. Dreams will definitely be on PlayStation 5 as well. Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, Last of Us 2. There's no release date for those 3 yet. I think Dreams is in beta. Death Stranding's coming Christmas. I think.
Yeah,
I think so. That's announced to be releasing this year. But again, that might miss out on the PS5 version. I highly doubt it. But we'll get into the games now that we want to see, because we're going to move on to Microsoft in a sec. But what games do you want to see at launch? I wrote a few down that I would like to see.
God of War 2. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, but there is another game.
God of War 2.
There is another game that could definitely launch, and that'll be Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Yeah.
Because that launched in 2017. It will have a quicker turnaround.
I still need to complete that. I feel bad. I've still not completed that.
That's a fantastic game, that is. That's a top game.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah, so I think well over 10 million units sold.
That's what I'm saying about Sony, when they bring those experiences out.
Yeah. But we'll get into Microsoft's own experience, because I have got a game to shout out for Microsoft later in the podcast that I do believe could even rival that. Look, the games I've wrote down for each system that I want to see come out kind of tally up well as a good balance between each other. So my game would be definitely Horizon Zero Dawn, which I can definitely see coming as a release game, number 2. And that would be a phenomenal, like I said, over 10 million units sold. That would be an incredible launch game. As well as we know, the Uncharted developers, Naughty Dog, have 2 teams now. One is working on The Last of Us 2, finishing up on that, I believe. The voice actors and motion capture actors, I think Troy Baker was on Twitter saying he'd wrapped a while ago on motion capture for that game. So they are now probably finalising the game there. I think that could launch spring next year, definitely.
Yeah.
That one. But I would go with whatever they're working on. I think they're not done with Uncharted. I think they're before. It's be like Microsoft saying we're done with Gears or we're done with Halo. Uncharted sells on average, 10 million copies. I think Uncharted 4 is at like 15 million sold. You cannot leave that IP. As much as people say, create new IP, create new. If the IPs are already good and interesting still, there's nothing wrong.
If they keep them fresh and keep the story moving, then why not?
And Uncharted would be fresh, because spoilers for anyone who has not completed Uncharted 4. Have you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Don't ruin it. I'm only halfway
through. Well, obviously, I think, at the end of Uncharted 4, they could go a different direction within the new world by this second team.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that. And my other pick to launch, now this is wishful thinking, but it could definitely be done, is Gran Turismo 7.
Hugely wishful thinking.
I know they're still...
Sony have never been able to launch with them.
I know it's it's wishful thinking, but I'd like to see them launch with Gran Turismo 7. That'll be 5 years
after the console comes out, when he's got every single note perfected in the game.
And I'd like them to go less simulation.
Yeah.
I would like them to just go slightly move away. I know that's what fans of Gran Turismo are going to like, but for the racing game person in me, the fan in me, I'd like to see them have a choice of arcade simulation. Yeah. On the actual startup screen, arcade, simulation, and the car's already tuned for a more arcade experience. And if you want your simulation experience, you want your career mode, there you go. It's there.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a fantastic... Because the engine's there. I mean, they said that their version of HDR supports future-proofed HDR. Future-proofed, it can support up to 8K, that game, apparently, in the future of tellies and whatnot. That was confirmed. So they could take that engine, evolve it for number 7, and I don't think that's a lot of work. I really don't. The cars are there. The maps are there. All they got to do is, as we've always said, similar to Horizon Zero Dawn, the engine's done. A big thing about why a game takes so long is the engine. That's why Hideo Kojima's game's made in 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. Death Stranding, people are shocked that that's coming out this year. No, it's not, because the engine's there. The Decima engine was ready to go. It's ready to be used. He's got his team. it was ready to go. So for me, Gran Turismo and Horizon Zero Dawn and Uncharted, new franchise set within the Uncharted world, would be my launch games, unless you can think of any like Japanese style games. There's definitely going to be multi-platform games.
I'll tell you, I'd love to see a Yakuza, another Yakuza at launch.
At launch, yeah.
Done for us.
Yeah. Maybe,
you know. Yeah, because I'm relatively new to the Yakuza games. I never had them on PS2 or PS3. So, like I said, I think I said it last week, when Kiwami came out and things like that got me into the series.
Yeah.
Absolutely adore them now.
Yeah.
I've bought them all.
Yeah, yeah. 3, 4, and 5 are coming to the West, I believe.
Yeah, they are.
So I can't wait to play those again. Yeah.
To be confirmed.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they are coming. But it would just be nice to get that at the same time, or roughly, you know, not having to wait a year for it to be translated and whatnot. And
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, those are some, I mean, and don't forget you got Insomniac with Spider-Man PS5. I know that's wishful thinking of me, but maybe, you never know. The world's there. You know, the city's already done.
It's there, yeah.
You know, and the animations are there. You know, when games launch a sequel, 70% of the game is virtually identical in terms of animations. They add a few more. They improve the graphics visually slightly, which will be a resolution buff. You know, obviously with the machines using new architecture and new graphics outputs, you'll have higher resolutions, higher texture fidelity, better shadows, better AA and all that sort of thing.
I wouldn't be massively surprised, given the language that's coming from Microsoft, if we start seeing their games on other platforms like the PlayStation.
Well, we'll get into Microsoft in a sec.
I wouldn't be surprised with that at all.
But again, from a PlayStation perspective, not too different from last gen. Maybe include their version of a Game Pass, backwards compatibility, keep the single player experiences. A couple of your studios maybe focus on a multiplayer, 1 or 2 multiplayer games. And just and obviously improve PlayStation Network. I still not to keep both machines. I've not been overly impressed with the interface.
The UIs are terrible.
Yeah, they need a real overhaul on those.
This is what put me off the Xbox One when that came out. The UI on that was horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
But they got it so right with the 360, with the original blade system.
Tabs, the blades, yeah.
Just
I
go
love that
through
one,
them. It was fantastic.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, okay, that's it for PlayStation. Oh, price. What do you reckon for price?
Anywhere from $3.99 up to $5.99.
Yeah, I think they'll launch $4.99 over here in the UK. $4.99.
Yeah,
I think definitely.
Lucky if you get a game with that.
Okay, so now we'll move on to Microsoft, and the interesting thing for me as a Microsoft is that this will be Phil Spencer's first generation in charge, because as we know from the Xbox One reveal, Don Matrick. Look, I know Don Matrix gets a lot of stick from the gamers in general because he's the one that's the face of when he comes on stage in 2013 or 14, whenever that was, and proceeded to spout TV, 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 and it didn't go down well with the average gamer. And credit where credit is due to Phil and his team is that they've tried their best to please Xbox players with backwards compatibility, Game Pass. There was a few game cancellations that upset a few. Again, Scalebound, going on to that just quickly. Scalebound was one of them games I don't think was going to sell massively well on the Microsoft platform. No. It just wasn't.
I mean, I'd love to know. These are games, like you say, games get cancelled. I'd love to know how many games actually do get cancelled that we don't even know about.
The problem with what made that one stand out was it was quite a distance into its development. Looking at the second E3 demo we saw when he fought a big tentacled squid boss or whatever it was, Kraken type boss on the dragon, and I looked at it and thought, yeah, that looks a little bit rough, but it looks interesting. It got a bit of Panzer Dragoonus with the dragon, and then you had a bit of Devil May Cry fighting on the ground, and you were like, this could be an absolute phenomenal system seller for Xbox in Japan, where it needs to pick up. But it's never going to.
They're never going to sell in Japan, are they, really?
It's never going to. I mean, the Japanese culture historically is play on you go. The PlayStation hasn't been a massive success over there. It's mobile modular. The culture of Japanese gaming is mobile, play on the go, Switch. You know, the handheld market is huge over there. So for me, when they announced Scalebound by Platinum Games, I was quite shocked when they did do that. And so that didn't surprise me when that got cancelled, because I don't think that would have sold a lot. You would have got someone like me interested, because I love my Japanese games. But so for this generation, we're coming into it. This is Phil Spencer's. This is his vision for Xbox. We've seen his vision from 2016 onwards, 2015-16 onwards, and for me it was a positive one. It made me go and purchase another Xbox and an Xbox One X.
Yeah.
So I loved what he'd done. So again, with Xbox, forget graphics, forget which one's more powerful. Who cares? Let's see what Microsoft can give us.
And the thing I'd say as well, go with the system you love.
Exactly. If you love Xbox experiences, play those games. Yeah. Find them there. And it's same with PlayStation. If you love PlayStation experiences, but acknowledge that there are games on each platform. Yeah. That's all we ask, as to just acknowledge, as fans of games, to just acknowledge that those games exist and they are great games. Yeah. Just because you cannot get over your bias a little bit, or it's like a football team or a soccer team.
Well, it's like PC, isn't it? We all know PCs are the better machines. It's just the fact that the games aren't developed for them.
Yeah, I mean, we upgrade our PCs on a yearly basis, and I always say to you, don't I? When there's a lot, I play Warhammer Total War, and I love that game. Yeah. I think you play the Total Rome series as well, the Total War series, and the game looks spectacular. But again, when you look at the exclusive experiences, I'm going to say PlayStation while we're talking about Microsoft, but when you look at Uncharted and you look at Horizon and you look at God of War, they would look better on PC, but they're not on PC because there's no developers that make those games on PC to take advantage of your cards. And let's be real here, a lot of PC, we're in a short percentage of players that can play these games. If you're going to spend $2,000 or £1,500 on a graphics card, then you're in the small percentage of players that are going to get a minute benefit, because we're talking higher resolution shadows, longer draw distances,
I can tell you now,
faster frame rates, which is important.
As you know, I build PCs, I sell them. Yeah. Most people just want a PC capable of running Fortnite.
Yeah,
that is it.
Which is Fortnite.
Can it run Fortnite at 60 frames per second or above on Ultra? Yes, it can. Okay, I'll have it. And most of the time, it's a PC that's around £200.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're buying second-hand parts as well, which are good parts to buy, they're checked over.
Absolutely, as long as you test them before you purchase, there's nothing wrong with buying second-hand
Going on to Microsoft, we're not going to, again, this is not about, although the title of the video is PS5 versus Xbox, it is that.
It's what we want to see,
but it's what the features. So Microsoft already launched with features that we want to see in the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So let's see what we want to see Microsoft launch with that are in that PlayStation have, that Microsoft did. So, what do you want to see that Microsoft kind of need from Sony? Not so much in games, but in terms of their features, sort of thing. What would you like to see? Because it's a hard one, because Microsoft kind of has more features.
Well, the thing I'd say with Microsoft, and sometimes they don't support their machines past the first year.
I agree.
We've always said.
I agree there. First 2 or 3 years, then they let it go for the last 2 years. To be fair,
get the S out and then the X out.
Yeah,
they seem to forget.
They kind of rely on the multi-platform games a little bit more than maybe Sony and Nintendo do.
Yeah,
towards the end of their generation.
I'll keep on. I know you've said about the games and things like that. I just want to see more exclusives from Microsoft. They've got some fantastic developers.
Yeah, they are
working with them.
They've got some.
And look at the IPs they've got,
especially under the Rare umbrella. They've got a lot of IPs to go through there. They could do. We'll talk about the games in a bit, but obviously,
I mean, hardware. Like I said, I mean, when you look at the specs, let's be honest, it's AMD. Both machines, they're going to be so close. I think the only thing that's going to come to it is how they set the machines out in terms of the design.
Yeah, features and games
inside with the motherboard layout and whatnot, because that will make a difference on speed and processing.
Yeah,
and from what I can gather, both of the SSDs in these machines are custom for each company.
Exactly,
so that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, well, and Microsoft have confirmed that they will have a feature that's confirmed. I think Microsoft have confirmed it themselves, that they will have ray tracing. That was in the trailer at E3.
So, yeah.
And ray tracing seems to be the new buzzword going around within games at the moment, which is SSD.
It's like physics before.
Exactly. And ray tracing, we've seen a couple of demos of ray tracing, and I'm going to try and explain it, because I'm not technically wizard or anything like that in terms of game terminology. But the way I look at the videos, it's the way light sources bounce off objects within the game world. So it gives it a more realistic lighting and more realistic shadow depth and things like that off objects within the game world, which from what we've seen on demos and stuff of ray tracing, it looks phenomenal. So if Microsoft can get a superior version of ray tracing, maybe, because again, if you go over to the Digital Foundry guys, they've just put out a video about the Xbox Scarlet explaining the Zen and Navi system again, and I think they do talk about ray tracing within that video. So go and check those out if you want to know more about that. But I'm yet to find anywhere where Sony have clarified that they will have ray tracing.
Yeah,
I think
they
said something about audio, something to do with the ray tracing with audio at the moment. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. But yeah, with Microsoft, improve the features that are already there.
Yeah.
Backwards compatibility was a huge plus. Build on what you got, keep it going, but actually increase it.
Yeah.
Make it larger, expand it more. And again, the Game Pass is such a good thing. You've now got Ultimate Game Pass because going forward, exclusisive games.
I've just signed up for that. I'd say it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal service for what it costs.
They are exclusive games still.
And it includes gold with that.
Exactly. So, I mean, exclusive games are exclusive games to the Microsoft platform. So that includes Windows, PC, and Xbox.
I hope as well that they continue with the free games. What as you signed up with the Plus and Gold, you get your 3 free games every month.
I didn't mention that because I think that's inevitable. You're going to get free games from both
You never know
platforms.
You just never know, though, do you?
Yeah.
But I would like to see that continue.
Yeah, definitely. That has to continue, hopefully, because that's value. Because I think they could be maybe setting you up to maybe charge you, especially here, maybe charge you an extra £10 a year for the services, because it always goes up over here for So, but it's interesting with Microsoft because they have turned it round, but they need to get the people on board. And with the start of this new generation, they can really send a message. This is my argument a little bit, which is why I gave them a 6 and a 7 in the previous podcast as a rating, because it
was underwhelming, wasn't
it? They could have really, gone forward with that.
Yeah.
And sent that message that, this is our new system. This is what it's going to be. And it was a 1:30 trailer, which they obviously felt it was good enough because they're going to leave it to obviously 2020 before E3. They're going to showcase their new games and tell people why you have to have this system. But I could have thought, I maybe could have thought that, one good thing is they're committed to the next gen, and that's a plus. Because you don't want to see one company run away with it, because that's when you start.
That's when they start getting complacent.
Yeah,
and
start ripping
prices
people off.
Start going ridiculously high.
Competition is good.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
So, yeah, with Microsoft.
I said to you the other day, didn't I? I'd love to see Sega come back with a machine.
Yeah,
I miss having a new
happen.
Sega machine. I know. I just really miss Sega.
Not going to happen, mate. Take that dream and put it in.
No.
And flush it down the toilet, mate, because that ain't going to happen.
I know.
But
I don't know, mate. If they sell enough of these Mega Drive Minis, they might have enough money.
They might give you a Dreamcast Mini. But yeah, I mean,
why not?
Well, we had a PlayStation Classic, which was very underwhelming. But yeah, going back onto Microsoft, we'll talk about the games we want to see launched and what games do you want to see launched. Now, we said Horizon, Gran Turismo, and an Uncharted experience.
Give me a Fable.
I think that's the big one.
Give me a Fable.
Now, I know you're the biggest Fable fan, so I'll let you see what you want to see in that game first. But I'll just say that for me, Fable, it's not my biggest franchise, but if they were to take Fable, and I know
if they take Fable, right, and deliver on everything that Molyneux promised,
no, go away from
right?
Pete. No.
Oh yeah,
go away from Peter Molyneux, because stop. Take Fable and reinvent Fable. I would go really fantasy realistic. With dark, with keep a slight bit of humour, but I'd take in a totally different direction. I'd go really ultra realistic with this, like proper fantasy style, Lord of the Rings-esque Fable, and I would take the humour out of it, because that only translate to us. Generally speaking, our British humour, sarcasm, generally only translates to us in the UK most of the time. I've been to America for 25 years, and generally my sarcasm, I don't know, I'm not saying all Americans, but kind of flies over a lot of the Americans' head when you talk to them in the shops and things, and you're at the parks and whatnot. So, again, I would go ultra realistic on my point of view with Fable 4. In fact, I'd just call it Fable with a subtitle.
Reboot it.
Subtitle with something underneath. But what do you want to see from Fable? Because I think it's Playground Games. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's.
I think it is Playground Games.
What do you want to see?
I want to see more of the same, mate. I love it.
You want to keep the British humour.
I love it, mate.
The cartooniness of it. So yeah. But what in terms of?
I adore those games. I do.
What would you base it on in today's sort of RPG that you've played recently and gone, oh yeah, that could be a good Fable.
Witcher 3-esque.
Yeah, Witcher 3 is not a bad show.
With comedy.
Again,
because I know there's some funny things in The Witcher 3. I'm quite sick.
Oh, Witcher's got dark humour.
There's quite a bit of stuff in that.
Witcher 3 has got a lot of dark humour in it. You know, so with Dandelion and the dwarf, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I have to think of it. That'll come to me in a minute. But again, there's a lot of dark humour in The Witcher, but it's a very serious tale.
It is a very serious game.
For me,
and that's why I like Fable, because
it's different.
It's different, yeah. And you can just go... I lost myself in that game for a long time, just messing around.
But again, I think the series tallied off in sales. People were starting to get fed up with, again, the broken promises from Peter Molyneux's Fable. So this is why I think for brand... Because they did have a game on Xbox which got cancelled. Was it Fable Legends, which was a 4-player... sort of... against an overlord. You played against an overlord trying to escape a map, so to speak, if I remember right on that game. But obviously they didn't see that as being quote-unquote good enough to launch, and fair play to Microsoft. They put some money into that. They were like, well, not fair play, because they maybe could have released it, but if you release that product and it gets backlash, you get negative...
It's worse, yeah.
Negative attention,
exactly.
So... Don't put it out there, and don't put yourself up for negative attention.
Fallout 76. It's
Fallout
negative.
76, yeah.
And look what's happened to Bethesda since that game's come out. There's a lot.
That was the only one for me personally. I know, again, we had this last week, but their bugs are bugs. They're all bugs.
Oh, get that, but
Fallout 76 was.
I don't think it's the bugs
was an exception to
bothered
that.
them. I think it's more.
I think it did on
online.
Fallout. In Fallout 76, the fact that it was online plus the bugs were on another level in that game. But again, a Fable would be a good one.
I'd like to see a Fable. Definitely.
Yeah. And another game, because I'm a fighting game fan, I would go back and put Killer Instinct back on. Killer Instinct. Absolutely. Killer Instinct was a fantastic game, supported phenomenally well. Up until recently, we haven't had any recently new announced characters. I think they're going to move on. I think they might be ready in Killer Instinct with about 8 characters to go, at launch of the Xbox Scarlet. So that, for me, is another personal one. What else for you? We'll try and do 2 or 3 games. We already know one big one. I'm leaving that till last, which is a huge, massive plus for Microsoft to launch with this game. We already know what this one is.
I don't know, mate. I mean, there's a lot of, like we've said, there's a lot of IPs.
Do you expect anything from Rare at launch after Sea of Thieves, which is apparently one of the most improved games now? They reckon that game is extremely good now.
I played it literally 2 weeks ago, and I was like, meh.
You have to be into that sort of thing as well, pirates and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love pirates, mate.
I'm not going to comment because I haven't gone back to it since
it
released, and it wasn't my particular sort of thing. Anyway,
it's a funny one. It is a funny one.
Yeah, you don't expect anything from Banjo-Kazooie, maybe an adventure game.
I don't think
Conquer,
so. No,
anything from that?
I don't think so.
Maybe. No.
It'd be nice to see another Banjo game.
Yeah. Well, Banjo's coming to Smash, so they're obviously licensing the character out.
They've never done a racing.
Well, that's my other pick, is going to be Forza Motorsport.
But I don't think they've got the license for Diddy Kong, have they?
No, that's Nintendo.
That's Nintendo, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Nintendo. So, I mean, they're going to launch with, hopefully, another Forza Motorsport, because the two, I prefer the Motorsport games. I actually prefer the career modes in the Motorsport
number
games.
7's
brilliant. I love that game. Yeah. So again, Forza's Forza, it's the best racing game you can buy. So again, launch with that. But the big one, and it is confirmed to launch, I believe, on Xbox and Xbox Scarlet, is Halo Infinite. I love Halo. We didn't mention it last week on the podcast completely. Again, it was kind of...
It was just one of them, wasn't it?
One of them was Halo,
Halo, do you even need
it's
to
not that we
mention...
don't love Halo. We don't need to mention Halo. Halo's going to sell a truckload.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what the sales figures for number 5 were, because I know the campaign was... Oh God, I completed that relatively fast. That wasn't a big campaign because it's a multiplayer game. People are there for the multiplayer on Halo. But a big open world or even semi-open world Halo game set on a new planet would be amazing. Graphically, if that's what the Xbox Scarlet was producing, it looked good. I wasn't mind-bogglingly blown by that demo. by any stretch of the means, but it looked crisp, like sharp, pin sharp. You could see that. You could see it was a really smooth looking. Whether it was in engine or in game, I don't know. I don't know whether they confirmed that. But again, Halo Infinite as a launch title is a huge plus, and it's something that Sony need to counteract with having an equally as big a franchise, which is why I say Uncharted should be their equally as big a franchise to launch with.
Yeah.
So so again, we'll go with those as our picks for Microsoft. Again, Microsoft will have a different advantage this year in the point of fact is they can get the message across better on the stage at E3 next year, and throughout this year they'll definitely put out more information. And
it'd be interesting to see Gamescom this year.
Gamescom, Paris Games Week, and whether they have some sort of a direct similar to Sony and Nintendo to showcase their new console. But the last thing we're going to talk about today is Judgment. We're going to play this next week. It's a new PlayStation 4 game. It's going to be our first sort of let's play game. We're only going to play maybe the first hour and a half to see how we go. We're just ironing out some kinks with the audio and the lighting where our gaming station is within the room, and that should go live next week. But we're going to talk about Judgment, which is a new game from the Yakuza developments. As we've said before, we're both huge Yakuza games fans, and this one looks absolutely fantastic.
It does look good, mate.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. It looks
disappointed
different.
It got delayed.
Got delayed because some guy decided to smoke cocaine.
Yeah.
And in Japan, obviously, that's looked upon as a serious offence. So they kind of removed the games off the shelf.
Do you know something, though? I'm glad they stuck with their guns and did it. You know what I mean?
It's their culture. You can't moan it. If that's what it is, that's what it is. You have to suck it up. That's their culture. That's what makes me want to play these games again with you. Experience different cultures within games.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose that. So with the Yakuza games, they've always been a bit out there with their side quests and a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair play to them. So the game is coming today, I believe. It's out on the 26th, 25th in the UK. It's out worldwide. So I'll be checking that out next week. That's going to go next week. And so again, the Yakuza games, we'll talk a little bit about the Yakuza games because they're fantastic games, and we do believe they're...
Majima.
Yeah.
Kazama.
Yeah, awesome games. The characters are just so wacky, but brilliant.
Lovable.
Yeah, brilliant. And the combat's good. It is a brawler. It's not this massively technical... You got 4 different fighting styles.
You could just sink into it.
The story is what really drives you through those games. And
I don't want to say any spoilers, but there's some points in those games I was actually weeping.
Yeah. They'll send you through the mills because they started life on PS2, I believe, because I played them on the original PS2, and they were dubbed in English, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
The language was awful, and the whole behaviour of the main character was different purely from the dub. And obviously, I always play Japanese games with Japanese audio and English subtitles because the translation is a lot better today.
Yeah.
And so we could recommend this game series. Go check out Yakuza. I believe going forward, I think Sega might put those on next generation for everything. They've historically only been on PlayStation, but they just started to recently put them on PC.
I think they've said as well, haven't they? Yakuza will no longer be a
PlayStation
only franchise. Yeah.
So hopefully the Xbox fans get to experience
PC,
them, or if not, buy a PlayStation. They have released them on PC.
They're on Steam, aren't they?
They're on Steam. They've got Zero and Kiwami at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think Kiwami 2 comes out maybe in a couple of months. I could be wrong on that, but Judgment comes out this week. We're going to make that our first Let's Play, so look forward to that. As I say, that's going to be interesting. We're going to have a good old romping time through this awesome game. It's set in the same world as the Yakuza games, but obviously with a different... You're a cop in this one, and so you'll have different abilities, different fighting styles. You've got like a detective mode. But it's for me, we're waiting for Shenmue 3 because we've always wanted to finish that game.
Got to finish the story, mate.
And these games have kind of surpassed. I mean, the guy who directs these, I've got his name wrote down to make sure I get it right. Toshiro Nagoshi. I believe that's how you say his name. Don't ask me to say it again. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But yeah, that guy actually was supervisor on the Shenmue games, and obviously I think he oversaw the completion of Shenmue 2 because it was a troubled development on that. So this guy who's the director of the Yakuza games comes from a pedigree of Shenmue. Excuse me. And so these are the Shenmue games that you've always wanted. So if you don't know the Yakuza games but know Shenmue, check these games out. they're literally beat for beat like Shenmue, but with better. It's better gameplay, better story, and stuff.
You have
like
a map telling you where to go in Yakuza.
Oh yeah. There's no, it does help.
Not a notebook.
Yeah, it does help. But yeah, there it is, guys. That's our wish list for next generation. The game that we'll be playing next week, hopefully, all going well with the audio. Just trying to finalise that. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us immensely to get your feedback on what we talk about, and obviously engage with us on that. We will hopefully be more engaging in the future. We're on Twitter, so I'll put up our Twitter signs on the video so you can see where we are on there. And again, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later. Bye bye.